one of the organisers of Peer-to-Peer and host for this session, with just a few housekeeping rules that I've got to share with you. Firstly, to let you know this session is being recorded and will be added to the Peer-to-Peer website at a later date. Secondly, it is also being simultaneously interpreted into Cantonese. Should you wish to listen to this, please use the select language function at the bottom of your screen. And finally, we actively encourage questions and comments from the audience. You can submit these through the chat function at the bottom of your screen. I will be monitoring these and we hope to have time to put these to the panel towards the end of the session. I'm now delighted to hand over to Wing-Sie Chan, Programs and Partnerships Manager at AN, the Artist Information Company, and Chair of this session.
Great, thanks, Lindsay. Hi everyone, I'm Wing-Sie Chan, Programs and Partnerships Manager at AN, the Artist Information Company, and we're based in the UK. We are the UK's largest artist membership organisation, and we act on behalf of our membership to improve artists' livelihoods, inform cultural policy and advocate for the value of artists in contemporary society. The panel and I are really happy to be opening the Peer-to-Peer Festival with the first session today. And joining me, we have Angel Leung, who's Programs Manager at Videotage, a leading non-profit organisation in Hong Kong founded in 1986, which specialises in the promotion, presentation and preservation of new media art. We also have Callan Lee, who's an artist researcher based in Hong Kong and also a curatorial member at 1A Space, which was founded by a collective of artists in 1998 and operates as an independent non-profit contemporary visual arts organisation and arts venue. We also have Dorcas Leung, who's assistant manager at HART, which is still quite a young organisation, having only been begun in 2018. It's a collective of art spaces and studios that fosters artistic collaboration and community value. And last but not least, we have Jamie Wylde, Director of Video Club, representing the UK. Video Club was founded in 2005 and is a platform for contemporary artist film, video and moving image. So today we'll be discussing the value of artistic exchange, particularly on an international level, and why this is more crucial than ever given the current global circumstances, and how it's impacted on the way that artists work and how we can continue encouraging meaningful international collaboration at this moment in time. At a Creative Industries Federation International Conference, Sir Nicholas Rota, chair of the Arts Council England, once said that cultures that cut themselves off ultimately stagnate and are irrelevant to a changing world. So on that note, I wanted to ask Dorcas and Cullen, what would you say are the values of artist-led practice and artistic communities? And do you think they're vulnerable during the current global circumstances?
Well, thank you, Wing-Sie. Maybe I can take the question first, and then I'll hand it to our colleagues. And hi, everybody. My name is Callan, also Wing-Ki Lee. I'm a curatorial member from 1A Space, and as Wing-Sie said, we were founded in 1998. We consider ourselves as a Hong Kong-based non-profit art organization. From the past 23 years, we have been establishing our identity in Hong Kong and also internationally. So we work with artists a lot in terms of exhibitions, artist talk, and also community art project. But since 2020, with the pandemic, we do face a lot of challenge and also opportunities that brings our organization. Maybe we need a new format, a new way of thinking, a new way of working. I would like to bring in two exhibitions that happens in the summer that to outline what we have done and also how we cope with the situation. So in summer, we have two international exchange exhibitions scheduled, and including artists from 5 continents and also curator as well. but with the travel restrictions, we cannot really host them in Hong Kong. So we have to really act and make things promptly. So we have to launch the exhibition online as a virtual exhibition, and also artist talk virtually, even program like workshop virtually. So far, I would like to say it is a success, and but there's still quite a lot for us to learn how to become a stronger virtual online presence for our organizations. Yeah. How about Dorcas? What's your experience with what happened in 2020 at Videotage?
Thank you, Wing-Sie. So first of all, just to clarify, we are so at HART, we focus on the process of art making itself, and how creative talents or artists can create, experiment, and evolve the practice in a social setting, which is inside the studio behind me. And instead of having or focusing on a creation on a certain subject matter, we stress on the artistic practice, which is interdisciplinary, cross-generational, and cross-cultural. So we really want to focus on an organic way of creating dialogue and driving new possibilities. So to answer the questions, so the current circumstances definitely have been creating great challenges for us, especially because our program originates from the physical art making process and also spin off from some of our discussion at the studio. So in the beginning of the year, we actually closed down the studio for around 1 to 2 weeks, and that really put most of our projects on a pause. But at the same time, seeing the other side of the coin, the circumstances also allow us to explore new opportunities. For example, artists have been spending more time at the studio given the circumstances that there are many restrictions on other activities such as traveling, and it allows them to be more focused on their art practices as well as to be able to interact with each other more often. And that leads to more exciting projects happening at HART this year, including our upcoming showcase, which brings up a very interesting question of what it means to be social in this socially distant era. And for us, for HART team, we are constantly rethinking how we can explore beyond focusing on just our physical space and our happenings to a broader digital space and engaging further our audience and partners. For example, for our latest exhibition, Household Gods in Central, we have moved some of our content online and are also planning to include a digital component of our upcoming programs, working with international partners in 2021. So as you all said, it's definitely been a learning curve for us as well.
And Jamie, I wanted to ask you, would you say that international exchange could provide strength and resilience to artist communities during this time?
I think it definitely can. I mean, in terms of the way that we've worked, especially with Videotage or with other organizations internationally, we've been able to share things like resources, sharing connections, sharing staff time. So Videotage and I share a collaborative website, which is in both Chinese and English, and we share artists' work through that. There's also things like ideas and models and different types of systems that organizations use to keep connected and to collaborate with. And I think all of those kinds of things that, you know, work in one country for a crisis situation might similarly work in another. And I think it's sort of thinking about what those models and systems might be that organizations can share with one another. And I think particularly for artist-led organizations, there needs to be more sort of knowledge sharing. And I think those opportunities to share knowledge internationally are really important to offer that opportunity for resilience, especially around things like funding and cooperating internationally and sharing and exchanging information and artistic ideas.
And so to Angel now. What has been your experience of working internationally and kind of gaining that artistic exchange? What positive changes have resulted in that? For example, with the project Both Sides Now that you've worked on with Jamie, what have you learned from this experience and what has been the positive impact?
Hi, I'm Angel from Videotage. Actually, we started our organization started like 34 years ago as an artist collective, and we have transformed into an art organizer over the last 3 decades. So as an art organizer, we have a lot of different international collaboration, and we are working more on that in recent years, especially with Video Club. We have worked together for 6 years already. For Both Sides Now, this is a project including exhibition and screening and artist residency. Actually, it is very interesting experience because each year we will select a specific theme, and we will select a collection of video artwork for the screenings, as well as we will invite artists. For example, UK artists come to Hong Kong and our Hong Kong artists go to UK. It is what we have done for Both Sides Now 1 to 5. It is very rewarding because we actually encourage the like a dialogue conversation between both places. With the artist residency, we hope the artists is not only showcasing the artwork here, but actually they learn the context, the cultural context of its places and create some artworks in response to their experience in both places. For example, last year for Both Sides Now 5, we have 2 artists, Bob Cross from the UK to Hong Kong. He has made a very beautiful art piece about the gay community, older gay community in Hong Kong. And we have Nicole Poon from Hong Kong to the UK. She has made an art piece about lesbian identity in a theater environment. So because she stayed at a place which is also a theater and an art community. So it is very interesting to have those kind of dialogues. And also when we have the screening together on a certain topic, for example, last year our topic was queer. It is interesting to see the juxtaposition of artists from both places, how they see the same topics. And we want to create meaningful conversation through this kind of projects.
And Jamie, do you have anything to add to that in terms of, maybe you could talk a little bit about audiences and new markets accessing that and how that's created value in the work that, that you kind of use to represent UK artists, but also internationally, and that kind of exchange in audiences and market development? You're on mute.
Got it. So a lot of the work that we've done with Videotage, we've tended to theme our programs. Like Angel was saying, last year was queer. We've done ones on technology and gaming. One was about Occupy Central 1 year, which was called the best of time. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. And so I think in terms of audience, we've tended to have a focus around a particular theme that's helped to draw in new audiences each time, so that we can have a bit of a focus. We've also, with Videotage as well, done projects with art fairs and opened up sort of opportunities to showcase artists' work. With Art Basel Hong Kong, we did an exhibition with Videotage there 1 year and did talks and sort of opened up opportunities for the audience at Art Basel to come and talk about artist film and video, which was a really good opportunity to sort of share and exchange ideas with those audiences. And again, I think also the website is a great opportunity for people to learn about different artists as well, and sort of open up that exchange. And particularly with the project that we're doing at the moment with the resident artists, with the Minecraft project that Videotage are doing. I think Angel's going to probably talk about that a little later on, and also the Vital Capacities program that we're doing. So we're bringing in sort of new audiences to the sort of digital realm, as well as previous projects that we would have done physically.
Great, thank you. So some of you have already touched on how the pandemic has changed our visual arts landscape and the way that artists work. But I just wanted to elaborate on that a little bit more and kind of ask all of you, what have you noticed have been the changes since, you know, the beginning of the year to now, and how have you and your organizations adapted, you know, and would you say that it's kind of a bit more of a familiar territory to work in this way now? Who would like to go first? Colin?
Okay. For me, my intuition would be things become much faster, and in terms of the speed of the work mode. Usually we will have around a year or 9 months to plan for a new project or new exhibitions. But since the pandemic, we need to make really quick decisions to turn exhibitions online, or to make really fast and quick decisions. I think that really changed our practice, and also how artists and also art organization works. And we're still in it, so maybe we don't realize how fast-paced we are working in the past 8 months, for example. So that's just my personal and a quick response to the question.
Over to Dorcas.
To respond to this question, maybe I can use our example of having the exhibition Household Gods recently. It's our first group exhibition created by Ying Kwok, and featuring 4 of our artists in the studio, including Nadim, Chin, Tab, and Jaru. And in the preparation, actually, besides content making, there has been a long discussion of whether we will have the physical show in Hong Kong, or whether we will move everything online, or is there more options. So it has been I would say a more complicated kind of thinking process under this situation, which wouldn't be happening if we don't have this whole like pandemic and all the situation we have right now. And so what we were thinking about is, like, very importantly, we really want to show and share with all the audience how the curator and the artist came together and work as a studio, which is a very important part of our exhibition making. So in the end, we actually came up with a series of in-dialogue sessions, both in live streaming and recorded versions, that focus on artists and their art practices at the studio, as well as an online exhibition tour, which is available on our website, as well as also a digital version of our exhibition publication, so that by all these kind of means, we hope to give a very different experience to audience who might not be able to join us physically, to have a different experience of the same exhibition online. So it's a very different thinking process, and we are definitely still learning. And probably the next step for us would be to think about how to make sure we'll sustain a two-way kind of dialogue on all our online platforms, instead of having just one-way kind of presentation.
I think the main thing that we've noticed about how the landscape has changed is obviously the difference with, you know, in terms of lockdown, the venues. And so it feels like the online space has been trying to replicate what venues do. And I think that's been a real struggle for some organizations, and trying to bring what exhibitions do online, which is quite difficult. I think what organizations have been really successful in doing is actually just trying to support artists to make new work that isn't necessarily for digital platforms, but is about showing work and creating it for a digital space. So reframing work or redeveloping it for that type of space. So we're working with some artists at the moment who have a large-scale exhibition in Arizona, and we're helping them to redevelop the work for the online space in the UK, because they can't actually show the work here at the moment, or they're worried about their audiences. So I think, as curators, we have a role in supporting artists to redevelop their work and reposition it and reframe it for the digital space, rather than trying to show work that isn't meant for that space in it.
Yeah, and leading on from that point, I guess a question for Angel, both you and Angel actually. So you're so familiar with working with digital mediums. Do you think that the circumstances have brought about any additional changes for you? Being a digital medium, it's always been kind of accessible globally in that way. So what has changed the way you work at the moment?
Okay, I can go first. Actually, it brings a lot of opportunity for us, especially to showcasing screen-based artwork online, because on one hand, it is easier. We don't have to have a lot of different kind of setup or like new technology to showcase video artwork online. There are a lot of like website or technology which are already very well developed at the moment. And on the other hand, it makes video artwork more accessible to the audience, especially for the audience. They may not would spare like 1 to 2 hours to attend a screening of experimental artwork, but they are willing to look at artwork online when they have time, like in the middle of the night. So in terms of audiences, we have reached like 3 to 4 times like of audience numbers compared to in real life screenings. And also we are attempting different forms to show the artwork, because for like in real life screening, we have only one time, one date, one location, which is pretty restricted. But for online screening, we are trying different things. We have tried like screening marathons throughout 9 days. Each day we screen one artwork. And it is pretty exciting to see how people who are not very, you won't see them in the screening if it is in real life, but you see they're responding, they're excited about the showcases, and it is pretty, I think it opened up new opportunities for us as digital art organizations.
So then what would you say are kind of new alternative models or ways of working that have evolved out of this? For example, I know you've developed, Videotage has developed a project on Minecraft. So can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, because we have a lot of challenges when we are trying to organize artist residencies. We have artists from the UK who could not come to Hong Kong because of the pandemic and travel bans. So we were thinking how we can make residency possible when we cannot travel overseas. And our house creator and director, Cao Chung, he proposed why not using gaming environment as a, like, why not try this, taking it as an opportunity to try new medium to host online residency. So he got the idea from Animal Crossing, actually, but we have chosen Minecraft, and we created a Gato Depot artist village in Minecraft, and we have invited 4 artists to have play dates with us. So actually, it opened up really exciting new form of our artist residency, because the cost is relatively lower, and actually we can provide a lot of flexibility and freedom for artists to create. Actually, we just tell them, okay, you can do whatever you want in there, and you don't have to create something like a artwork, something concrete. Just do whatever you want there. And especially it is interesting with Gato Depot, because in Gato Depot, we are a historical site. So basically we cannot do anything there. That makes the structure. But in Minecraft, it is the like complete opposite. So this kind of contrasts are quite interesting. And we also think that this Minecraft residency opened a new way to do online residency, which is not only showcasing the artists and the artworks, but also allow them to interact with the location, even though it is in a virtual world.
And just maybe yourself and Cullen can elaborate a little bit about Gato Depot and that kind of sense of artist community. So particularly for people in the UK who aren't familiar with the Hong Kong sector, visual arts sector, can you explain a little bit more about the kind of artist hub and there?
Yeah, sure. Gato Depot is an artist village, and it houses 5 to 6 art organizations with some small studio. It was formerly a Gato Depot, so slaughter and the Hong Kong government repurposed the Gato Depot to an artist village. I think around 1999 to 2000, early 2000. And but it is a listed building, a listed set of architecture. So for art organization, we really face a really difficult, it looks beautiful, but at the same time, we cannot do anything that may harm or change any inner or outer structure of the building. So I think that also gives us quite a lot of challenge and limitation to think spatially. And when you come to Hong Kong, please come and visit us. It can be slightly inconvenient in terms of commuting, but it's a beautiful site, beautiful architecture with great organized art organization here. Yeah, Angel, what do you think?
I agree with Caitlin. I think 1A has done a beautiful job to make art space, exhibition space in Gato Depot, but there are a lot of constraints in Gato Depot, because I think it is the government's first attempt to try to make a artist village. Actually, the artist village was formed organically before like 1999. The artists gathered at another governmental building because the government rent out the space in a former governmental building at Oil Street in Hong Kong. But when that building was taken down, they moved the artists to elsewhere, and finally we arrived at Gato Depot. So we developed organically into an artist village, and we are trying to, we use this as office, but we are also trying to showcase artworks there. And so it is quite organically formed. And yeah, when you come to Hong Kong, please come visit it. It is very interesting. We have different kind of organizations in there.
Yeah. Well, I think what's really interesting is the kind of mock-up of this place within Minecraft, and then now actually the world can kind of access it, and also some of the restrictions, the government restrictions that you've just explained, and giving artists the autonomy to kind of do as they please within this virtual world is quite an interesting alternative model of working digitally. We actually have a question from the audience as well, so which kind of links on from what we've just discussed actually. So somebody is asking, what's your point of view about digital exhibitions, and do you think these kinds of exhibitions help the organisation, help the audience, or is it just a negative experience? So I guess to summarise, do you think it offers more, or kind of, you know, is quite restrictive in the experience?
I mean, personally, I think it offers something different. So the opportunity is going to be different digitally. Obviously, you go through a screen, but I think like I was saying, I think you have to think about what their experience will be and who the audience is and how they're going to experience that artwork, and presenting it in a way that's appropriate for the audience to experience it in a good way. I think thinking about things like, you know, how you turn the creation of an artwork into a story, or learning about the artist's background. There's so much more you can do online. There's an immediacy of opportunity that you can learn about an artist so immediately. Look at their past work catalogs and just explore things and create things in a completely different way. And I think it's an alternative, and it can add to. And I think in the future we'll see a lot more imagination coming to presenting work digitally that supports physical exhibitions, as well as being something that's a standalone thing, hopefully.
Does anyone think that this would have an impact on artist communities as well, and how they're formed? If everyone's kind of working within their own locality and not physically engaging, do you think that there is that similar level of engagement and kind of organic dialogue that can happen? I mean, for example, now we're all talking one by one, turning ourselves on and off by mute, so it's not a very natural way of communicating. So in terms of the organic evolution of artist communities, what do you think is the impact on that? Maybe Cullen?
Yeah, I think we can share a bit of experience about digital exhibitions. In July, we have I curate an exhibition at 1A Space, and it's all about texture, material, color, large format prints that we really want the audience to see it on site, to be there, see the physical exhibition. But one day after the opening, the Hong Kong government decided to have a small-scale local lockdown. So we have to close the exhibition, turn it into a virtual mode. That's quite a disappointment. I can't say it is a negative impact, but it creates disappointment to artists and also audience. But when we look at the bright side, it really helps us to think about how to document an exhibition, because augmented reality capture has become so accessible these days. So we can use augmented reality capture to really capture the exhibition, to give an online digital presence of the exhibition. And when I think about, I still can see the exhibition these days after 4 months. Not many exhibitions can last for 4 months, except, you know, the huge, gigantic, humongous scale exhibition. So from a documentation point of view, I think it can change our practice or our mindset about how to make a physical exhibition last longer, if not better. And I also thinking about maybe I should do some 3D scanning modeling of the small object that I made, just to make a digital artifact of the object, and maybe it will last longer and reach wider audiences. So that's our experience at our 1A Space. Yeah, both pros and cons. Yeah.
Great. And then I wondered if, what do you all think are the key elements of establishing an international relationship or international partnership? You know, some key factors that contribute to a successful one. Maybe Dorcas, would you like to start?
Sure. So for us, I think to establish an international partnership, it's actually very important to find the common goals, or at least to start talking about the common goals, as well as common interests. So for HART, we always take one step at a time. So we don't have like a very particular framework before we approach someone to talk about partnership. Instead, we try to drive a organic kind of conversation to see where we are all interested in, or which kind of artistic practices we might all want to explore more. And that's always the starting point. So sometimes we really think that to visit each other physically, I mean, at the studio, is also very important in terms of learning more about the environment where all these ideas or these practices come from. But having that like move to an kind of digital realm is also very interesting. For example, as you mentioned, with the combination now we have for peer-to-peer, it's actually a very different experience to us. So in long-term impact, we are really looking for sustainable kind of partnership, meaning that we don't like the partnership can go further than the end of certain programs of collaborations or projects. We can still keep the relationship and to see what we can consider, continue to drive later. So, and especially during these days, we think it's also mean exploring and growing resources for artists all over the world. And to share all these resources online is something very, very crucial at this moment of time. And also for our participants to learn more about what's happening out there. And it's also very beneficial to all the development we have right now.
Does anyone have any other, anything else to add to that as key kind of elements of successful partnership?
Yeah, I think as Angel said, we've been working on both sides now for the past 6 years, and I think something that's made that successful is just being honest and open to what we want to get out of the project, coming up with a sort of a collaborative theme and an approach to what we're going to be discussing, supporting each other in terms of learning about new artists and opportunities, and having some sort of resources that we can share as well. So that includes sort of staff time, some financial resources, and just having a really honest and open approach to what we're doing and communicating. I mean, they all sound obvious, but actually it's really important to have that sort of open process, and using sort of digital tools and putting together sort of documents and ideas and keeping a record of what it is that you're doing is really important, I think, to establishing something.
So we've talked a lot about working digitally and also the restrictions to physical gallery experiences. And we have a question from the audience, and someone has asked, are you surprised how little has been made of streets and open spaces for art at this moment in time? Anyone in particular?
Yes, actually, this is interesting. We have done like screening program online as well as on the street, on the advertisement board on the street in Lisbon in August. So it was the time when people start to go out, and so we did the online version because we cannot gather together in a theater setting, but the outdoor version is very interesting because actually people don't expect to see artwork on the street when they're walking, like going to work or having a night out or something. So it is very interesting. I think the pandemic has opened new way or forced people to use their creativity to see what we can do in spite of all the constraints under the pandemic. So in terms of international collaboration as well, I think because of the pandemic, somehow we have more international collaborations than before.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo that kind of surprise as well, that there isn't more sort of artwork happening. I think I think someone sort of answered this question as well. I think Carolyn Black answered this question, who's on the feed. I think a lot of the restrictions in the UK is that it's quite difficult to do work outdoors because of people congregating and having to have stewardship. And obviously, you know, setting up opportunities for the virus to spread is difficult. But also there are other projects. An artist I know called Sebli Dalil did a really amazing light show recently for Leeds Light Festival, which sort of took place across the whole of the city, which was outdoors, and sort of, I think there are some amazing opportunities to sort of take advantage of outdoor spaces.
Right. And I wanted to ask Dorcas, do you think there's potential for HART to and its artist community to establish international relationships, and what do you see as the benefit of doing so? Because HART's quite young, it began in 2018, and its kind of international partnerships are still kind of evolving. So where do you see the organisation position in its international strategy, if at all?
So actually, as you mentioned, HART is relatively a young organization. So previously, we already established some relationships, but it's always by project basis. For example, we worked with transcultural collaboration in 2019 for Central St. Martin for some of the events and collaborations. But we are definitely really looking forward to engaging further overseas collaborators. For example, in 2021, and a few programs are already in the pipeline. And we think that by engaging like overseas collaborators, it really helps open new doors and possibilities, and to extend relationship with partners whom we're not in contact with yet. So using, again, peer-to-peer as an example, actually by joining this online festival as well as the collaborations, we are seeing there are certain inquiries about if international artists can join HART at the studio in Hong Kong when like things are getting better later. So we definitely really welcome that kind of collaboration or discussion ongoing. And we also are very happy to have our artists to participate in the online residency with Furtherfield and also the University of Salford Art Collections through this program as well. So it's also a very good possibility, opportunity for artists to really expand the network and to have their art being there for other people to learn more about. So we think it's definitely a very good opportunity for us to learn from the practices from like overseas organizations, and it's highly valuable. So we're definitely seeing a great opportunity of doing more this kind of international relationships later.
And what about you, Colin?
For us at One Eye Space, we are kind of conceptualizing two international projects. I'll be really quick, yeah. And the first one is about alternative art space and alternative art economy. So we are actually looking for partners, institutions that we can do sort of a comparison between UK or other city, other countries, other city, and also Hong Kong, to how can we examine or look at or explore economy and also art space other than the mainstream, the glossy, and the blue chips gallery, that kind of ideas. But it's still at a very early stage. So any organization, any partners who are interested in talking about the idea, please reach out and contact us. Secondly, that is a project called Art Future, in search for future talents in contemporary art. Big title, reasonable budget. Part 1 is on Hong Kong and part 2 is for international open call. So we will announce the project details soon. We are looking for international artist curator to make exhibitions at 1A space, whether it's physical, virtual, digital. We are pretty much open up to new idea and also new format. So please look at our website, our Facebook page, or Instagram, social media, to get in touch with us. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And then I have a question for Jamie, actually. How might organisations facilitate international exchange, and what kind of support, resources and expertise can organisations offer, particularly for smaller artist-led initiatives, or artist-led practice groups? It's hard to kind of get that momentum on the international stage. So what role can organizations play in nurturing and supporting
that? I think there's a real opportunity for sort of organizations to offer sort of their networks and connections to smaller organizations. I mean, there's only 2 of us in Video Club, but we have sort of a wide network of contacts and connections that we work with to sort of create a, sort of an umbrella where we deliver projects. I think some of the things that are useful are things like small amounts of pockets of money that you can apply for, such as Connections Through Culture by the British Council, which offers small amounts of money, but just these really small amounts of money offer great opportunities to come out of them. And I think for smaller organizations, it's probably looking to organizations that have similar functions or common ideas and principles or ways of working, and making connections directly with them. I think Dorcas was saying that they sort of have these sort of common ways of working with different organizations, and it makes connections a lot easier. So if, like with Videotage, we work with artists, film and video, and that sort of makes a connection there. So thematic connections are quite useful. So it's just thinking about how you can make those connections happen, and doing a little bit of research online, and then just getting in touch with people. I mean, we're working at the moment. I just set up a connection with an organization in South Africa to develop a residency exchange. And that was basically doing a little bit of research and then emailing the ICA in Cape Town and just saying, hi, do you want to work on a digital residency exchange with us? And they said yes. And so we're developing that. And I think it's just thinking about looking for common connections and making those little approaches and then trying it out. Oh yeah, Sarah Fisher said, developing your creative practice is a good way of, especially for individuals to research ideas, and that's an Arts Council fund that you can use to develop new connections.
Angel, what about, what are your thoughts from a Hong Kong perspective? How can organisations support international exchange? Maybe she's disappeared. Oh, there she is. Oh, you're on mute.
Yes. Yes, I was mute. Yes, I think, for example, online festival like peer-to-peer has opened up a lot of opportunities for us to reach to other international organizations as well as international artists. throughout the exhibition, throughout the festival. And actually this is exciting. And we are also, I mean, we are at the moment, we are organizing residency happening to happen in next March, but actually there are a lot of uncertainties at the moment. So we still value the physical presence of artistic exchange, but we need to prepare a lot of like plan B, plan C to if thing doesn't go as we want to. And on the other hand, we think that I mean, it is harder to have artistic exchange the way before, but with online, with a lot of like online talk and panel discussion ideas and exchanges, actually it's open up different, a lot more opportunities for us to have conversations with other organizations outside Hong Kong, which may not be that convenient before the pandemic.
And I have a question for everyone, actually. We've talked a lot about establishing meaningful partnerships internationally, but what exactly do we mean by meaningful, and how do we measure long-term impact in that sense? Maybe start with Colin.
So for us at 1A Space, if we have a meaningful international partnership, and for the long-term impact, I think it goes to the artistic development for the artists and also audience development for both, both places, both organizations. We really treasure that. That would be through international partnership with artists grow and develop into, not just from different stage of career, but can we use international partnership to help artists to reshape their practice, to develop their practice, and also audiences in terms of audience development. So I think if we can make, artists and audience happy, then that would be something quite meaningful to us. Yeah. Sorry, happy is not a good word. Fulfilling maybe. Yeah.
Over to Dorcas.
I totally agree with Karen. Actually, this has also been a focus for HART this year in terms of building artist career as well as our audience portfolio. So what we have been doing in terms of to measure how, if we may put it like successful kind of audience long-term impact in partnership. So we actually think about how to get the feedback from all our stakeholders in terms of how we can do better, especially from participants from all events as well as our artists in the studio. So we think this kind of two-way communication and dialogue is really important for us to really drive towards our ultimate goal, which is sustainability, and to drive for more common goals and more common success.
Angel?
I need to think how we measure the outcome of this international collaborations. For example, we have like not physical, but like some concrete outcome. For example, for Minecraft residency, we have the site in the game and also we have documentations of all the practices. So there are some concrete outcomes in this collaborations, and also we are developing the site in Minecraft in a continuous way. We have to invite different art space that we build a space next to Gato Depot in the Minecraft world. So at the end, we will have an expanded artist world in Minecraft. So this is one way we see how the projects develop. And on the other hand, actually, we value a lot feedback and interaction on social media, especially this few years, that we want to know how can we reach to the younger audiences, and how we can use the social media platform to introduce to them more about like digital artwork and new media artwork. So in terms of like evaluating the outcome of this kind of intellectual collaborations, I think on one hand we value the end product or the creations made during the process. On the other hand, we also want to expand the audience bases.
And then to wrap up, we have one final question from the audience, which I think is appropriate for Jamie. So somebody is asking that they work with film, and so they'd appreciate any quick advice on how to expand their audiences beyond the UK.
Yeah, so expanding audiences beyond the UK, I think one of the great ways of doing this is one, get yourself set up a really, really good Vimeo account so that your work looks really professionally presented. Nice website as well. Film festivals are great. It depends what kind of film you make, but a lot of the film festivals have moved online during the pandemic, and they're really incredibly good at showcasing things online. And also having a look for different call-outs, international call-outs. So galleries are tending to do like smaller exhibitions online. Things like, say, Film and Video Umbrella in the UK has been doing small commissions. Same with Film London and the Lux. So I think organizations are sort of looking to do little commissions with money that they would have usually spent on exhibitions. So that's a big opportunity as well. And yeah, using social media. I know it's a pain in the bum for some, but it works out well, I think, you know, for Instagram and things like that.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you to all the panelists today, Jamie, Angel, Dorcas and Kalan, and to everyone who contributed to the chat today. Sorry if not all the questions have been answered, but do make use of the Slack channel. All the details are on the project's website. And I think I'll finish by saying that artistic exchange seems to be fundamentally still very important, and it's probably good to consider it as an alternative rather than a substitution in the current circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wing-Sie. That's been a really fascinating discussion, and there's been a great sort of conversation going on in the chat as well, which we will save. So thank you to everybody who's contributed in that. Thank you everyone for attending. I'd like to remind the audience that the next session, panel 2, Working with Communities, which is chaired by James Green, starts in around 15 minutes. So please do have a quick break and join us for that. Thank you very much. Goodbye.